The story of Christian the lion begins in a place you would never expect to find a king of the jungle. It was not in the vast golden plains of Africa, but in the heart of London, a busy and crowded city. In 1969, in the famous Harrods department store, a tiny lion cub was for sale. He had been born in a zoo and was now living in a small cage. Two young men from Australia, named John Rendell and Anthony Ace Bourke, saw the little cub. They felt sad for him. They knew that a cage in the store was no place for a lion. So, they decided to do something extraordinary. They chose to buy him. The two friends paid 250 guineas, which was a lot of money back then, and took the small, fluffy cub home. They named him Christian. At first, Christian was no bigger than a large house cat. He was playful and loving, and he quickly became part of their family. John and Ace lived in an apartment above a furniture shop on King's Road in Chelsea. This shop, called Sophisticate, became Christian's new home. He would spend his days playing with toys and greeting customers who came into the shop. It was a strange and wonderful sight for everyone who saw it. A lion cub living happily in the middle of a bustling modern city. John and Ace were very good to Christian. They loved him very much and took great care of him. They knew he needed more than just a place to sleep and food to eat. A lion needs to run and play. So they found a special place for him to exercise. A nearby church had a walled garden, and the vicar kindly allowed them to use it. Every day they would take Christian there to run freely, to chase balls, and to practice his pounces in the soft grass. He was a happy and healthy cub, full of energy and curiosity about the world around him. But this was London, not Africa. The sounds were of cars, not of other wild animals. The smells were of city streets, not of the open savannah. Christian was a lion, born with the instincts of a wild hunter, yet he was living the life of a city pet. He would ride in the back of their convertible car, with his head in the wind, looking like the most unusual passenger in all of London. This unique and surprising start to his life was just the first chapter in a story that would touch the hearts of millions of people all over the world, a story of love between humans and a magnificent animal. Christian quickly became more than just a pet. He became a local star. The people of Chelsea grew to know and love the friendly lion cub who lived on King's Road. He was a gentle soul, and his friendly nature was clear to everyone he met. He would often be seen walking on a leash with John and Ace, turning heads wherever he went. Shopkeepers would come out to greet him, and children would look on in amazement. He was known as the King of King's Road, a title that suited his majestic yet gentle presence. He was a symbol of the wild and wonderful in a world of concrete and traffic. His days were filled with adventures that were very unusual for a lion. He played with everyone, from the people who worked in the shop to the customers who came to visit. He didn't see people as a threat. He saw them as his friends and his family. He would cuddle with John and Ace on the sofa and play games with them on the floor. He was a part of their daily lives in every way. The bond between the two men and the growing lion was incredibly strong. It was a bond built on trust, affection, and a shared extraordinary experience of raising a lion in a city apartment. The furniture shop's basement was Christian's main living area, but his playground was the entire neighbourhood. He was photographed many times, becoming a minor celebrity in the London of the late 1960s. Pictures showed him riding in the car, relaxing in the furniture shop, or playing with his human friends. He seemed to enjoy the attention, and his calm personality made him easy to be around. He was a peaceful animal living in a human world, and for a short time it seemed to work perfectly. He was a special lion, and he was living a very special life. But even as a young cub, Christian was still a lion. He possessed a natural strength and power that would only grow over time. While he was gentle and loving, his instincts were still there, deep inside him. He would practice stalking and pouncing in the churchyard, his playful games a soft echo of the life he was meant to live. John and Ace understood this. They knew that their time with Christian in London was precious. but they also knew it could not last forever. The little cub they had brought home was growing up, and his future was an unanswered question. As the months passed, Christian grew, and he grew quickly. The small, cuddly cub that John and Ace could easily pick up was transforming into a powerful young lion. By the time he was a year old, he weighed nearly 180 pounds. His paws were huge, his muscles were strong, and his playful wrestling was becoming a serious challenge for his human friends. The basement of the furniture shop was starting to feel very small. The church garden, once a large space for him to run, now seemed like a small yard. The reality of their situation was becoming impossible to ignore. John and Ace faced a difficult truth. London was not a suitable home for a nearly full-grown lion. It was not safe for Christian, and it was not safe for the people around him. He was a gentle animal, but he was still a wild creature with incredible strength. An accidental swipe of his paw could cause serious injury. The costs of feeding him were also rising dramatically. He was a big cat with a big appetite. The two men loved Christian deeply, and the thought of parting with him was heartbreaking. But they knew they had to find a better, more permanent solution for his future. Their options seemed very limited and very sad. The most obvious choice was to give him to a zoo. But John and Ace hated this idea. They had rescued Christian from a cage in Harrods, and they did not want him to spend the rest of his life behind bars. They believed that a zoo was just a bigger cage. They wanted a better life for him, a life where he could be free. They felt a great responsibility for the animal they had raised. They had brought him into their world, and now they had to find the right place for him in his own world. The problem weighed heavily on their hearts. They were running out of time and options. Christian was becoming too big, too strong, and too wild for city life. The wonderful dream of raising a lion in London was coming to an end. They were at a crossroads, faced with a decision that would change Christian's life forever. They needed a miracle, a new hope that would give their beloved lion a chance at the life he was born for. They could not have known that this hope was about to walk right through the door of their furniture shop. Just when John and Ace were losing hope, two special visitors came to their shop. They were the actors Bill Travers and Virginia McKenna. These were not just any actors. They had starred in a famous movie which told the true story of raising a lion cub named Elsa and returning her to the wild in Africa. They saw Christian and immediately understood the problem John and Ace were facing. They had seen it before. They knew that a lion belonged in Africa, not in London. They offered a bold and exciting suggestion that would change everything. Bill and Virginia suggested that John and Ace contact a man named George Adamson. George was a conservationist living in Kenya, and he was the very person who had helped the real Elsa the lioness return to the wild. He was known as Baba Yasimba, which means father of lions. He dedicated his life to protecting and understanding these magnificent animals. The idea was to send Christian to Africa, where George could try to reintroduce him to the wild. It was a risky plan. Christian had been born in captivity and had lived his whole life with humans. He had no idea how to be a wild lion. Despite the challenges, George Adamson agreed to take on the difficult task. He knew it would not be easy to teach a human-raised lion how to hunt, how to survive, and how to interact with other wild lions. But he was willing to try. For John and Ace, this was the miracle they had been hoping for. It was a chance for Christian to have a real life of freedom under the African sun. Preparing Christian for his long journey began. He first spent some time at Bill Travers' country home, a large estate where he could get used to a more open, natural environment before his big trip. In August of 1970, the time came for Christian to leave London. It was an emotional farewell for John and Ace. They had raised him from a tiny cub, and he was a member of their family. Now they were sending him thousands of miles away to a life they could only imagine. Christian was carefully placed in a large travel crate and flown all the way to Kenya. There, George Adamson was waiting for him. A new chapter in Christian's life was about to begin in a wild and beautiful place called the Kora National Reserve. His journey from city pet to wild lion had truly started. Life in Africa was, honestly, a huge change for Christian. The Kora National Reserve was a vast, rugged wilderness, completely different from the streets of London. The sounds, the smells, and the sights were all new and, well, pretty strange to him. At first, Christian was confused and hesitant. He had never seen such wide open spaces. He had never felt the intense heat of the African sun. George Adamson knew that the biggest challenge would be to awaken Christian's natural instincts, which had been sleeping during his life in the city. He needed to learn how to be a lion. To help him, George introduced Christian to another lion named Boy. Boy had been used in the film and had some experience with the wild. George hoped that Boy would act as a mentor, teaching Christian the ways of the wilderness. The two lions slowly formed a bond. George began the long process of building a new pride around Christian. The goal was to create a small family of lions that could live and hunt together, eventually becoming fully independent. It was a slow and patient process, filled with many small steps forward and, honestly, some difficult steps back. The path to freedom was not easy, and the new pride faced many dangers. The wild is, after all, an unforgiving place. One of the lionesses, Katana, was tragically killed, likely by crocodiles at the river. Another was killed by wild lions who saw the new pride as intruders in their territory. Then a terrible accident happened. The lion boy attacked one of George's assistants, and George was forced to shoot him to save the man's life. Suddenly, Christian was left all alone, his mentor and his companions gone. It was a huge setback, and Christian's future in the wild seemed uncertain once more. Despite these terrible losses, George Adamson did not give up on Christian. And Christian, with his gentle but resilient spirit, did not give up either. He slowly began to adapt. He started to explore further from the camp, and his senses grew sharper. He learned to listen for the sounds of prey and to be wary of danger. George continued to work with him, helping him find his place in this new world. Christian was slowly but surely becoming the lion he was always meant to be. He was surviving, and he was learning the ancient laws of the African bush. A year after they said goodbye in London, John and Ace missed Christian terribly. They decided to travel to Kenya to see him. Many people, including George Adamson, warned them against it. They said that Christian was now a wild animal. He might not remember them, or worse, he might see them as a threat. A year is a long time in the life of a lion, and Christian had been through so much. But John and Ace had to try. Their bond with Christian felt too strong to be broken by time or distance. So they made the long journey to the Kora camp. When they arrived, George told them that Christian had not been seen for several weeks. He was leading his own small pride now, with two lionesses named Mona and Lisa, and he roamed far and wide. John and Ace waited, hoping for a glimpse of their old friend. They called his name across the vast landscape, just as they used to do in the church garden in London. For 3 long days, there was no sign of him. Their hopes began to fade. Perhaps the warnings were right. Perhaps Christian was gone from their lives for good. Then, on the 3rd day, something amazing happened. George Adamson spotted him. There, on the top of a distant rocky hill, was Christian. He stood there for a moment, looking down at the camp. Then he started to walk towards them. As he got closer, he began to run. John and Ace stood there, their hearts pounding. This was not the cub they knew. This was a big, powerful, wild lion. But as Christian ran towards them, there was no doubt. He remembered. He ran straight to them and gently put his huge paws on their shoulders, nuzzling their faces, just like he used to do. It was a moment of pure love and recognition. Christian purred loudly, a deep rumbling sound of happiness. He hugged them, played with them, and showed them in every way he could that he had not forgotten them. Even his two wild lionesses, Mona and Lisa, watched from a distance and then cautiously accepted the men, allowing them to get close. This emotional reunion, captured on film, would later become famous around the world. It showed that the bond of love they had formed in London was strong enough to cross continents and survive the call of the wild. The following year, in the summer of 1972, John and Ace returned to Kenya for a second visit. They were eager to see Christian again and to see how he was progressing in his wild life. When they arrived at George Adamson's camp, they learned that Christian was thriving. He was now the confident and established leader of his own pride. He was bigger, stronger, and more majestic than ever before. He had been away from the camp for many weeks, living completely on his own with his lionesses, a true sign that he had successfully returned to the wild. On the very night of their arrival, as if he somehow knew they were there, Christian appeared at the edge of the camp. The reunion, this time, was different. It was more reserved and dignified. Christian greeted them with affection, but it was the greeting of a wild king acknowledging his old friends. He was no longer the playful pet from London. He was a patriarch of the African wilderness, with responsibilities to his pride. He spent some time with them, but he kept a watchful eye on his territory. He was showing them the magnificent creature he had become. During their visit, they saw flashes of the old Christian they knew. On their last night in Kora, as if he understood they were leaving, his mood changed. He became playful again, wrestling gently with John and Ace, just as he had done when he was a cub in their apartment. It was as if he was saying a final, personal goodbye, reminding them of the special bond they would always share. The next morning he was gone, having returned to his pride and his life in the bush. John and Ace left Africa with hearts full of love and pride for what their lion had accomplished. This would be their last meeting. John Rendell made one final unannounced trip to Kenya in 1973, but Christian had not been seen for 9 months. In a remarkable twist of fate, Christian appeared at the camp the night before John was scheduled to arrive. George Adamson had a brief, respectful farewell with the massive lion, who now had his own cubs. When John arrived, he learned he had just missed him. Christian was never officially seen again. He had walked back into the wilderness for good, to live out his life as a truly wild and free lion, the ultimate success of his incredible journey. For many years, Christian's incredible story was known only to a small circle of people. But in 2008, everything changed. The grainy old film footage of that magical 1971 reunion was uploaded to the internet. The video quickly went viral, spreading across the globe like wildfire. Millions upon millions of people watched in awe as the huge lion ran to embrace his human friends. They were moved to tears by the powerful display of love and connection between man and beast. Suddenly, the whole world knew the name Christian the Lion and the story of his 2 lives. The video did more than just tell a heartwarming story. It made people think about the relationship between humans and animals. It showed that animals have deep emotions, memories, and the capacity for powerful bonds of friendship. Christian became a global symbol of this connection. John Rendell, until his passing in 2022, became a dedicated advocate for wildlife conservation. He used Christian's fame to raise awareness about the dangers facing lions in the wild. He traveled the world, sharing the story and reminding people that the magnificent animals they saw in the video were in serious trouble. The legacy of Christian is also tied to the legacy of George Adamson, the father of lions. George continued his vital work in Kora for many more years, dedicating his entire life to protecting lions. Tragically, in 1989, he was killed by poachers while defending his camp and his staff. He was a true hero of conservation, and his work gave Christian and many other lions a second chance at life. He is buried in the Kora National Reserve, the land he loved, forever a part of the wilderness he fought so hard to protect. His life and death are a stark reminder of the dangers involved in conservation. Christian's story is a timeless tale of love, freedom, and the enduring bond between species. It is a story that started in a London shop and ended in the vast plains of Africa. It reminds us that every animal is an individual with its own story and its own right to exist. Christian is believed to have lived a full life as a wild lion, disappearing into the savannah in the mid-1970s. Though he is long gone, his legacy lives on, inspiring a new generation to care about wildlife and to fight for the future of lions and all creatures on our planet. The world that Christian the lion returned to in the 1970s was very different from the world that lions face today in 2026. Back then, there were an estimated 300,000 lions living across Africa. They ruled the savannas as they had for thousands of years. But in the decades since Christian roamed free, their numbers have collapsed. Today, it is estimated that there are fewer than 25,000 lions left in the wild. That is a shocking decline of more than 90%. We have lost 9 out of every 10 lions. It is a silent crisis happening across the continent. Lions are facing many threats, and most of them are caused by humans. One of the biggest problems is the loss of their habitat. As human populations grow, cities, farms, and ranches expand into the wild lands where lions live. This means there is less space for lions to roam and hunt. It also leads to more conflict between lions and people. Lions sometimes attack livestock, and in retaliation, farmers and herders often poison or shoot them. This cycle of conflict is a major reason why lion populations are shrinking so rapidly across Africa. Another serious threat is poaching and illegal wildlife trade. Lions are hunted for their body parts, such as bones, skins, and claws, which are sold on the black market. This cruel trade puts a huge pressure on the remaining lion populations. Furthermore, the prey that lions depend on for food, such as zebra and wildebeest, are also declining due to hunting and habitat loss. Without enough food to eat, lion prides cannot survive and raise their cubs. All of these pressures combined are pushing the king of beasts towards the edge of extinction. Christian's story is more important now than ever before. It is a powerful reminder of what we stand to lose. It shows us the intelligence, beauty, and emotional depth of these incredible animals. We cannot let their roar fall silent forever. We must support conservation organizations that work to protect lions and their habitats. We must find ways for humans and lions to coexist peacefully. We must fight to end the illegal wildlife trade. The fate of the lion is in our hands. Let us remember Christian, the lion who was loved by 2 worlds, and honor his memory by ensuring a future for all lions in the wild.